On a distant alien planet, the atmosphere crackled with tension. The sky was a swirling mass of colors, deep purples and fiery oranges, illuminated by two suns hanging low. This world, once teeming with life and laughter, was now a barren wasteland, echoing with the sounds of despair. A small group of resistance fighters gathered in a hidden underground base, surrounded by the remnants of a civilization that had fallen to the mighty galactic regime. These fighters, a mix of alien species, were weary but determined. They were preparing for what could be their final mission. Among them was Lyra, the leader of the resistance. With her emerald skin and fierce golden eyes, she was a symbol of hope for her people. Lyra had always been the heart of their struggle, a beacon in the darkness. Her voice was strong as she rallied her team, reminding them of the power they held when united. Each word resonated with the fighters, sparking the flame of determination within them. As they discussed their plans, a sudden alarm blared throughout the base. "They're here!" one of the soldiers shouted, his voice tinged with panic. The fighters rushed to the observation deck, their hearts pounding in their chests. Through the large window, they saw a massive ship descending from the sky, its sleek metallic surface glinting ominously in the twin suns' light. The ship was unlike anything they had ever seen, a terrifying reminder of the regime's power. "Is this the end?" Lyra whispered, her thoughts racing. Would this ship bring their salvation or their doom? The tension in the air was palpable as the fighters exchanged worried glances. They all felt the weight of the moment. Many of them had lost loved ones to the regime, and now the fate of their planet hung in the balance. Suddenly, a burst of static erupted from their communication devices. The voice of Commander Zorath, a notorious officer of the galactic regime, crackled through. "You cannot hide forever, rebels! Surrender now or face total annihilation!" His laughter echoed ominously, sending chills down their spines. The resistance fighters gritted their teeth, defiance flickering in their eyes. They would not go down without a fight. As the ship hovered above them, Lyra felt a surge of determination. "We will fight!" she declared, her voice cutting through the fear that threatened to envelop them. "This is our home, and we will not let it be taken from us." The fighters nodded, their spirits rekindled by her words. They began to gather their weapons and prepare for the inevitable battle. The visual elements of the planet added to the tension. Dark dust storms raged outside, creating a sense of chaos and urgency. Towering alien plants, with their twisted branches and vibrant colors, swayed violently in the wind. In the distance, the remnants of a once great city loomed. Crumbling buildings and shattered technology littered the ground, testaments to the regime's brutal conquests. Amidst this desolation, the resistance fighters formed a bond forged in hope and desperation. They shared stories of their families, their lost homes, and dreams of a free future. Each tale fueled their resolve to fight back, to reclaim their world from the clutches of oppression. As they took their positions, Lyra glanced around at her team. They were a motley crew of warriors, strong and agile, each with unique skills that complemented one another. There was Kree, the sharp-shooting alien with incredible agility, Boltar, a hulking brute who could withstand the fiercest attacks, and Tila, a brilliant tech expert capable of hacking into the regime's systems. Together, they formed a formidable unit. The suspense reached its peak as the ship's landing gears engaged and a ramp extended downwards. "Get ready!" Lyra shouted, her heart racing. The moment of truth had arrived. They were about to face their greatest challenge yet, but deep inside, a flicker of hope ignited within them. They would fight for their lives, for their families, and for a chance at freedom. As the first footsteps echoed from the ship, Lyra gripped her weapon tightly, determination radiating from her every pore. "Let's show them what we're made of!" she yelled, leading her team into battle. The time for fear had passed now. It was time to stand and fight. As the massive ship settled onto the rocky surface of the alien planet, dust and debris swirled around it, creating an eerie cloud that momentarily obscured the scene. The resistance fighters braced themselves, weapons drawn and eyes wide with a mix of fear and anticipation. The ramp of the ship slowly lowered, creaking under the weight of whatever was about to emerge. From the shadows of the ship, a tall figure stepped forward, his silhouette contrasting sharply against the bright light streaming from within. As he emerged, the fighters gasped. The human soldier was strikingly handsome, with a strong jaw and piercing blue eyes that seemed to shine with determination. He wore advanced armor that glimmered in the sunlight, showcasing technology far beyond anything they had ever seen. The armor was sleek and fitted, designed not just for protection but to inspire awe. "Who are you?" Lyra called out, her voice steady despite the anxiety swirling in her chest. The human stopped, raising his hands in a gesture of peace, and introduced himself as Captain Jake Reynolds. "I'm here to help you," he said confidently, his voice calm and commanding. The resistance fighters exchanged wary glances. They had learned to distrust outsiders, especially after so many betrayals by others who claimed to be their saviors. "Why should we believe you?" Cree, the sharpshooter, stepped forward, skepticism written across his face. "You could be just another soldier sent to finish us off." Jake understood their hesitation. He took a deep breath and explained his mission. "I come from Earth, a planet that has also faced oppression. I have seen what the regime can do, and I won't let them destroy your world without a fight." His words hung in the air, filling the space with a mixture of hope and disbelief. The fighters looked at one another, feeling the tension of their decision. As Jake continued, detailing his plan to help them take back their planet, the atmosphere shifted. Lyra felt a spark of hope ignite within her. "What do you know about our fight?" she asked, her voice softer now, her curiosity piqued. Jake met her gaze, his blue eyes steady. "I know you're outnumbered, but I also know you have the heart of warriors. Together we can turn the tide." In that moment, an invisible connection formed between Jake and Lyra. They both understood the weight of leadership, the burden of responsibility, and the desperate need for a hero. Their chemistry was undeniable, and the tension between them began to melt the skepticism of the other fighters. As they stood together, surrounded by the wreckage of their world, Jake's presence began to fill the fighters with a renewed sense of purpose. They realized that perhaps they were not alone in their struggle after all. With Jake by their side, they might just stand a chance against the galactic regime. "Let's do this," Lyra said, her voice filled with determination. The fighters rallied around her and Jake, ready to join forces. The first step toward their liberation had been taken, and hope surged within them like a tidal wave, pushing away the shadows of despair. With newfound hope coursing through their veins, the resistance fighters gathered around Jake, eager to learn from the human warrior. The underground base buzzed with energy as they prepared for their counteroffensive against the galactic regime. Jake knew that their survival depended on strategic planning and skillful execution, so he wasted no time in setting up a training program. "First, let's familiarize ourselves with the equipment," Jake announced, holding up a sleek, high-tech weapon. The fighters leaned in, curiosity sparkling in their eyes. Jake demonstrated how to operate the advanced firearms, integrating alien technology with human innovation. The fighters watched closely as he explained the features, from the rapid fire capability to the built-in targeting systems powered by artificial intelligence. "This weapon adapts to your fighting style," Jake explained, showing them how to adjust the settings. "We need to work as a team to maximize our strengths." The fighters listened intently, absorbing every detail. They were amazed by the technology that Jake brought with him from Earth, and they quickly realized how much they could learn. Together, they began to experiment with cloaking devices that would allow them to become nearly invisible in combat. The room buzzed with excitement as they practiced using the devices, feeling a sense of camaraderie building among them. As the training sessions began, the resistance fighters engaged in fast-paced action drills. They partnered up, combining their unique skills to create a powerful force. Jake and Lyra often worked together, their movements synchronized as they practiced evasive maneuvers and coordinated attacks. Cree, the sharpshooter, became Jake's protege, eager to learn the human's precise aim and speed. The drills were intense, filled with laughter and determination. As they sparred and strategized, bonds formed between the fighters. They shared stories of their past, and the atmosphere became one of trust and friendship. In this moment, they were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting for each other. However, the intensity of their training was soon interrupted by tragedy. During a simulated battle drill, an unexpected accident occurred. Bonner, one of the most dedicated members of the resistance, miscalculated a maneuver and was severely injured. Despite the quick response of the others, Bonner succumbed to his injuries before help could arrive. The mood in the base shifted dramatically as the fighters were struck by the harsh reality of their situation. Lyra felt her heart shatter as she looked at Bonner's lifeless body. He had been more than just a teammate. He was a friend and a symbol of hope for the group. The loss struck deep, leaving an emotional void that seemed impossible to fill. As the reality of their struggle sank in, Jake stepped forward, his voice steady yet filled with compassion. Bonner fought for a cause greater than himself. We owe it to him to continue this fight, to honor his memory. The fighters gathered around Bonner's body, each one paying their respects. Tears mingled with expressions of fierce determination as they vowed to carry on for him. "We will not let his sacrifice be in vain," Kree said, his voice filled with emotion. This shared grief united the resistance fighters, transforming their sorrow into a powerful motivation. They realized that their fight was not just against the regime, it was for their fallen comrades, their families, and their future. They would fight harder, train longer, and support one another as they prepared for the battle ahead. With renewed strength and a sense of purpose, they resumed their training, driven by the memory of Bonner and fueled by the hope of victory. The bond between Jake and the resistance fighters deepened as they prepared for the fight of their lives, ready to take on the forces that threatened their world. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an ominous glow over the battlefield, the atmosphere crackled with tension. The resistance fighters stood ready, adrenaline pumping through their veins. They had trained hard for this moment, and now it was time to face the galactic regime. Suddenly, the calm was shattered as the sky darkened with the approach of the enemy forces. Massive ships filled the air, their engines roaring like thunder. The resistance fighters exchanged nervous glances, but Jake's calm voice cut through the fear. "Stay focused! Remember what we practiced." With a deafening roar, the regime unleashed an orbital bombardment. Explosions lit up the sky, and debris rained down around the fighters. The ground shook violently, and the resistance team found themselves dodging blasts and seeking cover. Jake led them to a nearby ridge where they could strategize and counter the onslaught. "We need to split up!" Jake commanded. "Kree, take the sharpshooters and create a diversion on the left flank. Lyra, you and the others hold the line here with me." The fighters nodded, determination set in their eyes. They moved swiftly, each team executing their roles with precision. Kree and the sharpshooters climbed to an elevated position, picking off enemy soldiers with deadly accuracy. Their unexpected tactics caught the regime off guard, causing confusion among the attacking forces. Meanwhile, Jake and Lyra prepared for close-quarters combat. As the enemy troops advanced, the resistance fighters engaged them fiercely. Blaster fire lit up the night, and the sound of clashing weapons filled the air. Each encounter was intense and the stakes were high. Despite being outnumbered, the resistance fighters fought with an unyielding spirit. Their teamwork, honed through countless training sessions, shone through as they coordinated their attacks. With every fallen enemy, their confidence grew, fueling their determination to win against all odds. But the battle was far from over. The regime, realizing they were being outsmarted, called in reinforcements. The ground shook as more enemy ships descended, and the odds seemed to stack against the resistance. Just when it seemed that hope was dwindling, Jake and Lyra exchanged a knowing glance. "We can turn this around," Jake said, his voice steady. "We need a bold move." They quickly devised a daring plan to infiltrate the enemy command ship, hoping to take out their leadership and turn the tide of battle. As they dashed toward the ship, explosions erupted around them, but their focus remained sharp. "Stay close!" Jake shouted as they leapt into the ship's docking bay, narrowly avoiding enemy fire. Once inside, they faced a maze of corridors filled with enemy soldiers. Using their advanced cloaking devices, they navigated stealthily, taking down guards one by one. Finally, they reached the control room, where the enemy leader was directing the attack. The air was thick with tension as Jake and Lyra burst in. The enemy leader was taken by surprise, and the room erupted into chaos. In a moment of sheer bravery, Jake stepped forward, his weapon raised. "This ends now," he declared, inspiring his team and infusing them with newfound energy. The clash that followed was fierce, but Jake and Lyra fought together, their movements in sync, their resolve unshakable. As they battled fiercely, the tide of the fight shifted. With each enemy soldier they took down, the morale of the regime's forces began to falter. The resistance fighters outside, sensing the change, fought with renewed vigor, rallying around their leaders. In the heart of the chaos, Jake's bravery and Lyra's fierce determination became a beacon of hope. The fighters rallied behind them, pushing forward as they drove the enemy back. Together they proved that even against overwhelming odds, courage and unity could triumph over tyranny. The climactic battle was not just a fight for survival, it was a fight for freedom, and the resistance would not back down. They were determined to show the galaxy that they were not just underdogs, but heroes ready to reclaim their future. As the dust settled over the battlefield, a hush fell among the resistance fighters. They had faced overwhelming odds and emerged victorious against the galactic regime. The air was thick with relief and disbelief. Cheers erupted from the alien fighters as they embraced each other, their faces lit with joy. They had done the impossible. They had fought for their freedom and won. Among the celebrations, the aliens looked at the humans with newfound respect. No longer were they just strangers from a distant planet. They were friends and saviors. The human soldier, Jake, stood at the center of it all, surrounded by his alien comrades. "We did this together," he shouted over the cheers, his voice strong and confident. "Today we stand united." The joy was infectious, and the resistance members celebrated their hard-fought victory. Laughter filled the air, and stories of bravery were shared around the fire. They sang songs of hope, their voices rising into the night sky. But amidst the celebrations, a shadow loomed. The memory of their fallen comrade, Bonner. As the festivities continued, Jake gathered the remaining resistance fighters. He felt it was essential to honor Bonner's memory. "Let's take a moment to remember our friend," he said solemnly. The group fell silent, their hearts heavy with loss. They gathered around a small monument made of stones from the battlefield, each stone representing a fallen warrior. Jake spoke softly. "Bonner was not just a soldier, he was our brother. He fought with courage, and his spirit will always be with us." The fighters nodded, some wiping tears from their eyes. They shared stories of Bonner's bravery and how he had inspired them all to keep fighting, even when hope seemed lost. In that moment of remembrance, a deep bond formed among the fighters. They understood the true cost of freedom and the sacrifices that had been made. Together, they vowed to carry on Bonner's legacy and ensure that his sacrifice was not in vain. As the night wore on, Jake and Lyra found a quiet spot away from the crowd. They talked about the future, their voices filled with hope. "We have a chance to build something great," Lyra said, her eyes sparkling. "Together, we can forge new alliances, not just between humans and aliens, but among all beings who seek freedom." Jake nodded, inspired by her words. "We can create a new galaxy, one where we stand together against tyranny and oppression. Let's ensure that no one suffers like we did." Their relationship had grown deeper through the trials they faced together, and now they saw each other as partners in this new journey. They envisioned a brighter future, one filled with cooperation and understanding. As dawn broke, casting a golden light over the battlefield, the fighters began to gather again. They had plans to make, strategies to build a new alliance. They knew that this victory was just the beginning. With renewed hope, they set their sights on the horizon, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The resistance had transformed into a family, united by their struggles and victories. They had fought not just for survival, but for a future where peace could flourish. And with Jake and Lyra leading the way, the new alliance between humans and aliens promised to be a powerful force for good. As they marched forward into a new dawn, the fighters carried with them the lessons learned from battle, the friendships forged in hardship, and the hope that together they could build a better tomorrow.